police drop you off there and you knock on the door. It's this massive black power guy, you know, like tattoos all over his face. And I'm like, oh shit, like, what is this place kind of thing? And then as I stayed there, I was just noticing all this weird shit was happening. You know? Anyway, so a month went by, fucking, then I realized that it was just a front. Like they were selling meth to the prostitutes around the area. It wasn't even like it was a government funded rehab, but I didn't think the government knew. He had he's a career criminal, right? So he was a drug dealer. So it was, when we met him, he'd already done 15 years jail time, and I was 15 at the time. So he was like, the same amount of time you've been alive is the same amount of time I've spent in prison. And his last lag, he got a science degree, and he was very proud of it. He was like, science degree, now I can make crack. I had gotten into an argument with someone. You're drunk on the road, on the street, whatever. I got into an argument with someone, and we got into a tussle fight kind of thing. He went to throw a punch, and I punched back. Yeah. Then the guy, he fell back and hit his head, and he died. Almost died, So I had run off. And the police were, calling me, you need to come in. This is what's happening. I was, I was pretty scared at the time. Let's go to the police station. I need to go sort this shit out. And then got there. The detective, he was not trying to. I guess he was telling the truth. That you got into a fight with this guy. You punched him. He's hit his head, and he's on life support.
Mandate. Welcome to Mandate, where we navigate fresh perspectives and nothing is off the table. Tonight's guest is from Tāmakimakura. In fact, tonight's guest happens to be the very first guest of 2026. He is a chef. He's also known for his leadership in Pacific cuisine as well, but also the man is in charge and oversees over 20 or 23 plus restaurants in SkyCity. The man is an amazing individual, has an amazing story to share. He's also a father, a husband, but has an incredible story to share. So my friends, please welcome with me the man himself, the executive chef of SkyCity, Patrick Ikinofo!
It sounds like I'm coming in for some boxing fight or some shit. No, thanks for having me.
Oh, no, man. Appreciate it, Patrick. I know it's been a long time coming. I know we've been playing phone tag and just messaging back and forth. But we're finally here. We finally got you in the studio tonight. And so, brother, tell us, because you got an interesting story. A lot of things have happened. But also because for those who may not know you very well, hey, who's Patrick? What is his story? Can you kind of piece the pieces or the pieces together in terms of how it all started for you and also becoming a chef?
Yeah, I guess when you talk about these things, right, people tend to have the tendency to start where they are now and kind of move their way back. But I guess you got to start from the beginning, and So my mum was the youngest of 13 children, quite common in Pacific families, I guess. And they came over from Niue over in the 60s, and got their place in Central Auckland and in Greyland there. Everyone kind of lived there for a bit, and brothers and sisters all kind of branched out. And then I guess my mum met this guy. so had my sister, and then my mum, my grandfather said to my mum, you're gonna have to have another child. That they weren't together, you know what I mean? They weren't like a thing. But I think, my grandfather had said to her, you need to have another child to be with your daughter. And then so my mum went back to the same guy, because all my aunties had kids with all these different men, so maybe 4 kids with all different fathers. And because my mum was the youngest, I guess my grandfather didn't want that to be like that. So my mum went back to the same bloke. He comes along later in the story, but he wasn't around when we grew up. I think it's pretty relatable to a lot of brown people in this country. But yeah, he wasn't around when we were growing up. But yeah, my mum had me on a cold winter's night on July 1988. And yeah, grew up with raised by my mum and my grandmother in Greyland. And yeah, it's kind of, I guess you have a normal childhood. From when you have a kind of single parent home, or if you grow up with your grandparents, and yeah, I guess my uncles and stuff would came in every now and again, like they all had their own families and that kind of thing, but I think they kind of felt, oh, this is the youngest sibling's son, no father around, let's try and have some kind of influence on his life. So I guess I took little snippets of who they were into my character, I guess. And then did my primary school in St. Joseph's. Again, all brown school back in those days. And then went up to St. Paul's in Ponsonby. It was kind of just a transition, right? A lot of those students did it like that. And then got into a little trouble at St. Paul's with some weed and some marijuana and stuff. And then my mom moved me to Western Springs College down by the zoo there, to do high school and stuff like that. But I think, I don't know, like you grow up with the same people and the same thing, and you're at St. Paul's, you're the same people, everyone's brown, and you go to this new school and everyone's kind of, this is a mixed race school, you don't really see too many other colors or other people. And then that whole thing of like when you're in schooling and you kind of just mock each other, it was quite common. So I ended up getting into a lot of trouble in high school, just mocking people or being a bit of I guess it would be a bully, right? That's how you classify it, class clown and that kind of thing. So I spent more time outside the bloody principal's office than I did in the classroom. So yeah, then I ended up getting like a school holiday job, weekend job at a restaurant in Glen Eden called Hook, Line and Sinker, just washing dishes. I think it was around 12 at that time. And washed dishes, did that thing, and then as I was growing up, my mom used to take me to work with her, and she's a chef as well. So, she's been working in hospitality her whole life. So, I picked up a lot of things from working with her. She would teach me how to chop vegetables or whatever it might have been. And so I took those skills with me to that place when I was washing dishes. Then they kind of like, oh, this guy can do some stuff. So let's start using him in the kitchen. And then so I guess it was cheaper to use me than it is to hire a proper chef. So started working in the kitchen there. And then, I'm not really sure what happened or why. I think, it wasn't enough work going around, and ended up leaving that job. It was mainly just a weekend school holiday type thing. And then, really just hated school. I didn't like it at all. So I ended up dropping out. I think it was halfway through fourth form, halfway through year 8. Year 9. I don't know, whatever fourth form is. And then just got a full-time job in the city, washing dishes, doing that kind of thing. And then what happened? And then I got a job over in Waiheke when I was around 14, 15. But like over that period of time, I think it was, my grandmother had passed away. It was a big part of my life. And a big part of my sisters, she was the matriarch of the family. Everyone had everyone felt it. My mom went through some severe depression. My sister went and did her own thing, and that's her story. I don't want to talk about that, but everyone just kind of it fell apart. So I was just pissing around, getting into trouble. Anyway, it wasn't nice. So, but around that, before all that kind of stuff happened, right? I was saying my uncles and stuff would come through and things like that. So I picked up a habit of drinking alcohol at a very young age. it would start off with one of my uncles would come over on a Friday, bring a 6-pack. It'll be a beer, And then as I got older, that must be 8 or 9. And then it would be 2 beers. And then by like the time you're like, 12, 13, it's a 15 box and you're drinking a 6-pack, Then we used to have these Jet Sonic. I don't know if you remember that. Back in the day, it was like an underage disco. I would be going to that like wasted, eh? But yeah, that's by the time I was 15, working a full-time job, like I had this, pretty strong tolerance to alcohol, I guess, or it was quite a normal thing. Anyway, I went over to Waikiki with my cousin and a bloke named Amish Patel. He was the head chef. He's still a good friend of mine. It's really he was probably the first guy who inspired me to cook, good food. It was a small 30-seat restaurant doing. Back in those days, it was fine dining cuisine, and it was really, just opened my eyes to what this could be. You know what I mean? Because I guess I was always good at it, but you just don't really know how good you are or whatever until you get challenged. And then he kind of said to me, do you want to pursue this? Do you want, is this something you want to do for the rest of your life, kind of thing? Because if it is, go to school, go back to school, and get your paperwork for it. So yeah, took on his feedback, and I went to a chef's training school in Newmarket, and got my qualifications. Back in those days, if you were brown, you got it for free, so that saved a lot of money there. Did that, and it was funny because you would have the brown class. It was all Pacific Islander Māoris who got the course for free, and then you have other class of white people, different nationalities that had to pay for it. So it came to competition time, and we just ripped up, like the whole Polynesian, the brown class got a lot of awards through, got all these things. Opened my eyes even more, even further. There's competitions for this shit, like you can go and cook and win awards and stuff. So that was pretty cool. And then from there, that industry of drinking and drugs and all that kind of stuff was rife. It was really a part of the lifestyle, and because I've always been kind of older than I looked, I guess you would go into restaurants and work, and they might think you're 16, 17, 18. They thought you were over 18. So it'd be your end of night drinks would be staffies, and then you're on benders, and then you roll out of bed and you go to work and you do it all over again, kind of thing. So that was kind of what the lifestyle was like. And then I guess I just bounced up and down and around for a lot of restaurants in Auckland, but I always kind of chose the good ones. I wanted to work in places that looked good on my CV, but because of this, I don't know, habit or being young and just not really giving a shit about anything, the drinking would turn into not going to work, and then people would call me Patrick Ikinofo.
Oh,
not show up to work.
Man, no, cool, man.
So but it was I guess, and then it was just a whole bunch of stupid shit. You're doing dumb stuff when you're that young, and then then it just kind of rolled over, kept rolling through, doing this kind of stuff, and then worked in there used to be a place called Euro down the city, which had a really good name for itself. Wallace had spoken about Soul Bar with Gareth, did a little stint up there as well. Harbourside, these types of things. And then, I think it was around 15. And that was like first time 15, 16, something like that. First time I got arrested, right? That's, again, stupid stuff, smashed a car window or whatever. I got arrested. They let me out. And I just never went to the court case. I didn't think it was serious, And then yeah, then I think I was 17, or maybe a year later, got picked up for doing. Well, one of my friends was buying weed from a tinny house, and I was just with them, you know. And then the cop pulled us over, took our details, and said, "Oh, you got a warrant out for your arrest." You know, so they handcuffed me, took me to the police station. It was in the middle of the day, so saw the judge straight away. Ended up this whole process. I think that's how. Around that time, it was you get stuck in the system, right? That was like the beginning of it, and then yeah, I think even though I was working in these top-notch places, I still had this habit, and I was still, had friends that weren't doing anything. So it was like you get stuck in this thing of like hanging out with your friends doing dumb shit and then going to work the next day and, performing, I guess, or wanting to be, wanting to be something. But yeah, and then I kind of did that for that year of from 17 to 18, just racking up convictions, right? Doing dumb stuff. And then I think the last thing that ended up what was happening was I got a job at Culinary. And back in the day, that was the top spot. It just kind of opened. Made really good friends with the chef there, a guy named Glenn Taylor, and he took me under his wing. He was young as well. He must have been in his early 20s at that time. But yeah, loved the place, loved the food. Hadn't cooked anything like that before, but it was again another. I was at that top spot, so I thought it was cool. And then yeah, one of my friends came knocking on the window. I don't know what time it was, early hours of the morning. So and so's got arrested. We need to go pick him up from the cells. Blah 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 blah. And I was like, fuck, rolled out of bed, stole my mom's car, drove down to the watch house in Central City, and then anyway, he didn't even come out. So they still had their boxes. Started drinking. The sun came up. Well, the sun's about to come up, and then. For some dumb reason, just thought it would be cool to drive excessive speed down the back streets in Greyland, and then ended up hitting like 4 or 5 parked cars, But yeah, it was a really bad crash, and then got arrested because I had so many convictions at the time and was waiting for my court appearances. They said we're going to oppose bail this time, so you got to stay in. So it was like. Shit, I started getting scared, I was like, fuck, I don't want to go to jail, like, it's kind of scary. But so then in New Zealand, I guess, they want to rehabilitate the young people, which is a good thing, right? It's something that should be screamed and shouted about, I guess, compared to a lot of places across the world. So they put me into a drug and rehab place. For it was 24 hours to residential care, so I got sentenced to 3 months there to do this course. You ended up getting there, and the police drop you off there, and knock on the door. It's this massive Black Power guy, like tattoos all over his face, and I'm like, oh shit, like what is this place kind of thing? And then we go and. Set my room up. I think it was me. I was rooming with this older European male. It was an old Māori fella and one young white guy in another room, and then there was I guess 30-year-old Samoan dude staying on the back. And then still stayed there, and then as I stayed there, it started to, I guess. I was just noticing all this weird shit was happening. My roommate was like, I think you need to leave the room. I just need some time by myself. Anyway, so a month went by, and then I realized that it was just a front. Like they were selling meth to the prostitutes. around the area. It wasn't even like it was a government funded rehab, but I didn't think the government knew what was going on there, you know. So there was no classes, there was no, you know, none of that stuff that you would think a rehab would be. So that was another eye opening thing, right? It was just kind of interesting. Like my roommate was this junkie who was like shooting up meth in the room. Like I never seen people inject this stuff. I've only seen that stuff on TV, right?
Yeah.
And then anyway, we started drinking there. One of the Samoan guy, he was allowed to leave. He had a job and stuff. So one night he came back. He bought a bottle of something, vodka or something. We ended up getting drunk, and then I ended up having a fight with the other young dude that was there, just because we were, you know, wasted and doing dumb stuff again. He ran away, didn't come back. Then the guy who was running it, he was like, you know, what the fuck is going on? Blah 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 blah. You guys can't do this shit. And it's like, okay, but yeah, I'm sure we're meant to be doing something else.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and then I don't know what happened. I think he ended up leaving somewhere. I don't know if he got fired or what it was, but yeah, and then this new woman came in, took over, and then I ended up getting kicked out for just being an ass, you know. Like my job, everyone had a job in the house. My job was to cook, so she didn't like that I was cooking so much. The way I was cooking, you know, I was cooking like fancy feeds for everyone, like nice food, and I think she was trying to cut costs, and I don't know. I was answering back. I wasn't being, you know, the model
chef.
Well, just the model person, you know. Like honestly, around that time in my life, I just wasn't a nice person, you know. I was a dick. Like I was just really, you know, probably people watching this thing. You know, I remember that guy. He was a fucking ass, you know. So yeah, then I ended up getting kicked out. Back, and then I thought, okay, fuck, now I'm in the shit. I'm gonna go to jail now, you know. So, but luckily, yeah, I managed to get bailed back to my home address. 24-hour curfew, this kind of stuff. But then yeah, it just continued because I wasn't allowed to work, and then I was at home doing fuck all, and then the drinking and stuff, all this shit just started happening again. I would break curfew, I'd go off and do stuff, and I think, you know, you can see in today's day and age with all these ram raids and all that kind of stuff that it's kind of like similar. We just didn't go and do ram raids. We would like, I guess we weren't that crazy, you know, like we were still doing dumb stuff. We were still, you know, out stealing cars or doing breaking and entering and things like that. But it was, anyway, I can kind of relate to the youth of today and how that stuff is. But yeah, and then I don't know what I did, but I ended up going to jail when I was 18, like, you know, just fresh 18 as well. You know, we were getting held in the police station, and I'd been remanded in custody because the prisons were full. They were like, okay, we're just going to keep you here. So I was staying there, and then there was this guy in there, and he was like, you know, if you tell them that you got diabetes, they'll give you another cup of tea, and they'll give you some biscuits and stuff. So just listen to what he said. I did it, and then they were like, oh, okay, it's because of your health condition, we're going to ship you off to Mount Eden. You know?
Bro,
so I was like pleading with them, like, please, lad, please,
dude,
like,
man.
I'm only 18, I don't want to go. Da, 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 da. And then
you still remember that guy, Patrick? What a sad dude.
I remember it. I remember that. It was just like, I'm just stupid of me, you know. Like, anyway, you know, yeah. So ended up going there, but luckily I got bail again, so I only spent 2 nights there at that time, which was good. But all these charges that we're racking up, I haven't been sentenced on anything. So there's like, you know, multiple charges, maybe 20, 30 charges of all this dumb stuff. And then, ended up doing something again, obviously, and then went back to jail, remanded in custody until sentencing, you know. So that it wasn't long, you know, it was 6 months. But it was enough for me to, I guess, reflect on all this shit that I was doing, and try and, you know, find a different way. And I think, you know, my sister and I were very close when we were younger, and then we kind of went separate ways during after my grandmother died. But then when I ended up in jail, she used to write me letters a lot, and opened my eyes to think other things. She'd already moved to Australia at that time, and was living over there with her son and her partner. But yeah, and I think when you wake up and when you're in jail, right, you've pretty much lost everything. You've got nothing. So that was one of those moments where you're pretty scared. You're just like you're 18. I was just a kid. Like I didn't know. I thought I was the man, but you're really not. Especially in those kind of places, in those environments. But yeah, I came from a good upbringing, so just was respectful, kept my head down, and don't speak unless you have to, kind of thing. So it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was difficult. It was difficult and mentally, you know what I mean. But it was, yes, it's definitely not a place I want to go back to again. And then yeah, got out, but still immature, still not really, not really looking to the future that far ahead. But yeah, ended up moving to Australia with my sister and stuff. Worked in some places in Brisbane. Again, more top restaurants, real nice places. And then had a falling out with her over there. Came back home, and I think it must have been about 19, 20 at that time. Oh, we missed the whole part out about my dad, right? So yeah, I have a whole nother bunch of siblings, right? So we're all half Niuean, half my dad. Their mum was Niuean as well, so it's kind of funny. Like there's 8 of us, I think, and what's it called? So I met my dad when I was 15, all around the same time my grandma died. So all this kind of new things were happening, right? And met, all these siblings that I didn't know I had, and then met my dad. I didn't know what to expect, right? I had these things that you see on TV of dad fishing off the wharf or whatever it might have been. I envisioned this, but yeah, met him, and he's a character, right? Like, so he had he's a career criminal, right? So he was a drug dealer. So it was, when we met him, he'd already done 15 years jail time, and I was 15 at the time. So he was like, the same amount of time you've been alive is the same amount of time I've spent in prison. And his last lag, he got a science degree, and he was very proud of it. He was like, science degree, now I can make crack. And, like, oh, okay. That was interesting. But yeah, then, he took us around, rode motorbikes, and, he took me around places. But now as I got older, the things that he was doing when we were going these places, we'd go for bushwalks and all these types of things. It was just scouting plots on where to plant the plants, right. Or it would be some kind of drug run somewhere to one of his friends over across the country, So these kind of things were happening, but at the time I didn't realize it. And yeah, anyway, that was another aspect of that whole troubled teen era, right? Of all these things that were kind of happening, one after the other. And then, anyway, back to when I was 20, my sister, from my half sister, her partner was a chef, and they were working up in the Whitsundays up there, and she was like, come up, we'll give you a job, you stay, live in resort type thing. So we went up there, and we got a gig up there, and worked there for a bit. But again, this little devil on my shoulder, still the drinking again ended up taking over, and had a argument with one of the people there. I think it was a lot of racism in Australia. So some guy made some comments, ended up punching him, and got fired. And yeah, came back to New Zealand, made some dumb decisions all the way up until there, and then I think I just got back from there, and then I went out. I was I must have been around 21 at that time, and I met a girl, and I guess life kind of started to slow down a bit. Ended up marrying her a few years later, but life definitely slowed down a bit. I got a job back in Auckland, did my stuff, and just I guess got my first hotel gig. I'd never worked in hotels before. It was always restaurants, and it was about I think it was 21, 22 at that time, which is the Quartus in Simon Street. Used to be the Langham. Went for the trial there, and it was for sous chef. So it was at that time. That's like the second in command, but at Quartus at the Langham, the sous chefs are running the outlet, so they're more the head chefs. I went up there and I did my trial, cooked well. They gave me the job, but they never asked how old I was, and I think that was the lucky part of getting that gig, because that kind of set me up in the hotel industry at a young age and at a high position. So I did that. I stayed there for about a year and a half. That was probably the longest job that I had in my life at that time. It was like 18 months. And then we had our relationship. We had our things. We traveled the world. Went across Asia, a few different parts of Europe. And she was studying at the time, doing her accounting degree and stuff. Then we came back from travel and we made this decision. Let's move to London. But we needed to save some money and all that kind of stuff. So I went and got another job back in Australia at a place called Emirates Wogan Valley. It's closed down now, but at the time it was the only six-star resort in Oceania. Top resort and hotel. Again, another live-in gig, so it's easy to save money and stuff. I worked with a guy named Damien Brabender. Again, another young chef, right? He must have been about 28. And the food there at the time was just, you're doing tasting menus. So you're changing the menu every day. There's no budget. The resort's owned by Emirates, so you can just, you had free reign. You could buy whatever you wanted. It was really, really, I guess, a pivotal moment in my career where I had the ability to learn off someone who was young, real big ego, real arrogant, but just really hungry. He wanted to prove himself. So working with him, it was like you're getting all these ideas that are crazy, and you're learning all these different techniques. And some of the stuff was like absurd, but I was just a sponge at that time. I was just trying to take as much knowledge as I can out of this guy. We ended up meeting back up with my girlfriend over in Denmark. Got married there because it was the only place in Europe where you could get married like Las Vegas. But because I had so many convictions, right, it was so difficult to get into these countries to try, to be able to even live and work in the UK. So I was like, okay, we need to get married to get this to be able to be to live and work there. So that's kind of how that played out. And went there and did some traveling through France and Italy and all those kind of European countries, and then finally landed in London. But we had to come through this back way, some island. I think it was Jersey. I think the name of the island was. It's part of the UK, but we went there by boat. so we could, didn't want to fly through Heathrow, and then they're like, you got all of these convictions, mate. So went through there, and ended up living in London for a year, but got another really, I guess, career defining position at a place called the Savoy Hotel, which in the hospitality industry is like where it all started. So there was a bloke named Auguste Escoffier who made pretty much what traditional French cooking is, right? And he made all these rankings, and hollandaise sauce and these kind of things were all created by this guy, right? And the front of house for him was a bloke named Caesar Ritz, who went on to make the Ritz Hotel brand. But yeah, so a lot of history, very well known. We're a very well known hotel, so that kind of sticks on your CV forever. And that, I think they made a TV show about this place as well. But yeah, anyway, did that for a year, and then I just didn't like London. Like I didn't like. It's just like grey, it was just a grey place. Everyone's in a rat race to do something. You're catching the tube everywhere you go. It was raining all the time, and I kind of said to my partner, like, I don't like it here. Let's go, let's go somewhere else, like somewhere fucking where the sun is, and let's just move. And then so she was open to it. I applied for multiple jobs, but then we decided to move back to Australia, and there was I forgot the name of the resort, but they both offered us both a job there, which was good. But they didn't realize she didn't have a New Zealand passport. She was on a different passport. They weren't sponsoring visas. So by the time we got there, that she couldn't work. We couldn't get the job. And I was I didn't go, obviously. Then we were just kind of stuck in the Gold Coast. Like, what are we going to do, kind of thing, trying to make a new plan. And I guess that put a lot of pressure on the relationship and a lot of just on life. She had just finished graduating, wanting to chase her career. I was kind of in the, not peak, but like I was in that, bounce off moment of I've worked in all these kind of cool places, and where am I going to go to next, kind of thing. So yeah, that put a strain on things. One day she just said, I'm going back to New Zealand. I want to go see my family. It's my mum's birthday coming up, etc., etc. And then, then she never came back. And I was like really gutted. I was just quite depressed and sad and all the rest of that kind of thing. Saw counselors, my sister. Every time I'm in chaos, I always reach out to my sister to try and make me feel better. And she had set up this therapist and stuff, and I kind of slowly started getting better, getting my life back. And then I was like, I applied for a job in Dubai, and it took months, like back and forth interviews, all sorts of this kind of stuff. But yeah, then finally I ended up getting this job over in Dubai. Didn't know what to expect. Heard about the place. I think I was 24 or something at that time. And yeah, got on a flight, went to the Middle East for a hotel group called the Intercontinental. Was taken over as a chef for the steakhouse. And there was a bloke there who was also a Kiwi, but he was up in senior management, so I think he had a bit of a say, on who to hire. But yeah, went there. And it was Dubai's Dubai. It was something you never imagined kind of place. It was really, I guess, eye opening, and yeah, it was just cool. So did my stint there at the Intercontinental, and slowly, not slowly, like quickly excelled. Like, I guess I've always been that guy they call when you want something fixed. So, within the hotels that I worked in. So it was, went into the steakhouse, did some really good food. After that, they gave me the residential suites side of the business. it was a little precinct of three different properties. Took over that, got that going, and then they gave me the golf course, and then the club lounge, and I was running multiple outlets within this little precinct. And then did that for about a year, and I was getting, I don't know, like, I think because when I was in Dubai and they were quickly giving me stuff and quickly changing things, I kind of felt like I'd run out of ideas, or I'd run out of, like, is this it kind of thing? I had one of those moments, even though I was still quite young. I had already been in the industry for, almost 10 years. And I was like, what can I do next? Is there something else? What comes next kind of thing, I guess you're still young and you want more, but you don't know, you just don't know. So it was, I ended up just throwing in that job and, like, wanted a challenge. So I applied for this job for cooking health food, no gluten, no sugar, no processed foods. Just it was a paleo diet. So yeah, I was like, let's go do this. It was, you leave all these 5-star environments and 5-star hotels, and I ended up in this little cafe in the middle of the desert, and they ran a bike shop next to it, just selling bicycles and running this cafe. And then just fell back in love again and passion with learning something new and cooking and doing that kind of thing. And then I did that for about a year and a half. Won best health food restaurant in Dubai, and then we got a knock on the door from the Sheikh of Dubai, right? And he owns a herbal treatment center. And he was like, I'm opening a food and beverage division of this herbal treatment center and need a chef to run the spot. So we went on as consultants, me and the owners of this cafe, and then took on that. The owners ended up dropping out. A bit of, I guess, conflict. I was doing a lot of the work. The people who are running the treatment center just approached me on the side and said, like, you're doing majority of this work. We're not sure whether we should still be paying these guys. How about you just come and work for us? You can't really say no to the Sheikh of Dubai, right? So it's like, yeah, sure, So I went on and ended up working for them, and then again won the same best health food restaurant again that year, and then I guess winning it 2 years in a row, you kind of feel like, let's go back and get the career back on track and chase the dream, So I think during this whole process, I guess when I was working in London at the Savoy, the executive chef there at the time, I think he was 20, 24 or 28. He was in his 20s, Canadian guy, and I put it in my mind that by the time I'm 30, I want to be, an executive chef of a major 5-star hotel brand. So that was kind of in my head, manifesting away slowly, right? And then, so I decided to go back into the hotel industry. I got a job at a place called Nikki Beach, which is like a new come-up. Well, back at the time, it was a new come-up hotel brand that was, lifestyle food. So a lot of this new skill that I had found, I can take that in with me. Went in a lower position, so it was a chef de cuisine role, running 2 outlets, and ended up staying there, and just working there for a bit. But I think I missed a big part of the South, right? So when I first moved there into Con, I met another woman, right? I met another woman there. And we got married, and I had ended up having my 2 sons with her. I guess this is when you start talking about your career and your life, a lot of chefs, we start rambling on about things and we forget about the important things, right? So I had a daughter as well when I was 20, and I think, that was another tricky one, right? Because I had my daughter. Well, I didn't have her. Her mother had her, but her mother had told me she was pregnant. I was working for her parents, which is another thing, right? I was working for her parents, and they had a restaurant and stuff, and then me and the daughter started, hanging out quite a bit, and she ended up getting pregnant, and I was on the way to move to that island. So it was like, oh shit, like in this moment of my life, I didn't want to stick around. I wanted to go and do my own thing. She told me she's not sure whether she's going to have it or not. And anyway, she ended up having the baby, and she's 16 now. But I wasn't around for her whole life, So then when I got to Dubai and I met my second wife, she got pregnant, and we weren't married. And over there, like, that is haram, like you can go to jail for that.
Was she like Middle Eastern or?
No, she was from Ukraine. She was from Ukraine. She lives there now. We all came back in COVID, but like we weren't married. It was kind of a really scary time. We hadn't even been together for very long, So it was like, what do we do? I think I must have been about 26 or something, 26, 27. And she was a bit older than me. She's like 5 years older than me, right? She's in that kind of period of her life where she's ready to have children. She's in early 30s kind of thing. We, gunshot wedding, flew to Ukraine, got married, and I guess I was a bit more sensible with that around that time. So I was, let's not run away. Let's stick this out. Time to be a father, and do the right thing. Had my oldest son, Max. He's 10 in next week, and then a couple of years later we had another son, Dima, who's turning 8. They're born on the same day but 2 years apart. So all these things, right? There's so many things, little pockets of stories. But I had my 2 sons, and then worked at Nikki Beach, did that thing there, and then COVID hit. And I don't know what it was like over here, but over there it was like, it was just, such a busy city, such a busy place. Everything's always going on. It just never stopped, right? And then all of a sudden it all stopped. There was no tourism. There was the roads were dead. It was, and all you see is this global news of this virus kind of going around, and everyone, like, I wasn't no shit, right? I was pretty scared. Like, am I going to see my family again? All this kind of stuff. And then, so we quickly were trying to figure out a way to get back to New Zealand. The mother of my children and my kids had never been to New Zealand. We didn't, it was pretty difficult. A lot of money went into these lawyers to try and quickly get visas and all this kind of stuff. So I ended up getting it done. Came back to New Zealand, what's that, about 5 years ago now, 6 years ago. Wow. And it was, and I think you guys were coming out of that level 2 lockdown, I think it was, or going into it.
Bro, so you're saying you've been back, what, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I thought.
Wow. About 5 years ago. So it was, spent about 8 years in Dubai. Yeah.
Bro, I tell you what, Patrick, and listen, isn't it interesting? You're sharing your story, and then obviously you're a great chef. You knew straight away from the get-go as a young as a young boy that you had this talent, this gift, and then whoever that chef, that Patel chef, you already saw it in you. And so, and it's funny, and I had an interesting conversation with some other young people. It's like you, in this environment, you're with your friends, and obviously Pasifika or Māori, and you want to be kind of like the outlier. You want to be like this. I got dreams, I got goals, but then your friends, and even though we love our friends, they kind of drag us back into this environment. Oh no, you're part of the boys, and like you were saying, you find yourself going back and doing these things. It was kind of like a cycle. But the coolest thing about it, Patrick, is this: you didn't stop. You didn't give up on the dream. You could have said, "Oh, you know what? This is it for me. Jail, sweet as I just go down this path." And some people are not lucky. Hey, Patrick. Some people are not lucky in terms of, or don't make the decision that you've made. Some people think, "Well, this is the only option I have." This dream is not going to happen, so I'm just going to go down this path and just keep going down that path of crime and just doing stupid stuff and whatever. But you had a real talent, and I think it's a testimony to you and your gift, and that you said, you know what, and you may have known back then when you were young, but you just knew that you had to keep going, pursuing this, becoming a chef. And man, it's incredible because everywhere you went, and what you're telling me, was top positions.
Yeah,
great restaurants.
I think it was like a lot to do with my mom as well, who had that background, and like I guess the resilience just when she was growing up and the things, being a single mom and working all these, multiple jobs to put food on the table kind of thing. It's, I don't know if you realize it when you're in that age or at that age, or, you respect it as much as you do now. You definitely become a lot wiser and a lot, you understand things a bit more, and you really look into what sacrifices people had made for you. And there's not really, the many sacrifices that, my family has made, or my, my sister, my mom, like, people that cared about me. And the amount of damage you do, you don't even realize you're doing when you're doing all that shit, right? Like, my mom was at every court case. My mom was in, every by my side at every all these things that happen. You don't really realize it. How much it affects the people around you as well.
Because what was it? Because it seems like, was there a lot of anger, Patrick? Was there a lot of anger as to why you do these things and just?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was just one of those things.
I guess it's like.
Was it just the environment?
No, it wasn't really. I didn't even think it was that much of the environment. I was more of the person that was going around doing dumb shit. My friends were just people to do it with. Like I think it was a lot to do with alcohol and a lot to do with those types of things, and just drinking too much and not really caring. I guess you could say it was anger with at certain periods of my life. Where something had happened or where these things were. I remember a lot of little moments, little snippets of things where, that happened, and I was I was very upset at that time, and this is what led to that. But I wouldn't say that I was an angry person, he walks around and just, who was angry.
Yeah.
Like I had something to live for. I had I had a passion. I had things. I don't know. I just think it's just doing dumb stuff.
Yeah, just young age, just
young, doing dumb stuff. Just not thinking about the consequences.
Yeah, and you're right. You put alcohol in the mix, of course you can. You find yourself doing some things that you normally wouldn't do. But bro, because now you're back, and now I didn't even know that you've been back just after COVID, and just you're back in the country, and now you're overseeing over 20 or even more restaurants in SkyCity. Bro, how did you land there? Because, man, you come back, is it just because you came back, they heard about you, your CV, your accolades? It was just...
I don't know, like I came into New Zealand, and it was kind of strange, right? Because you travel the world and you tell people you're from New Zealand, blah, 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 and then they'll all say, it's such an amazing place, and blah, 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 blah. And I had never been to the South Island, right? Like, I'd never, like, the furthest I'd gone was, like, Rotorua or something, like I'd never seen New Zealand, so it was really hard, like coming here with the mother and my children, my two kids, and then coming here, and then it's like it was a real culture shock for them. Like it was just it wasn't it wasn't an ideal thing, and moving it back into the family house with my mom and the wife and the two kids, it just all real kind of, I don't know, it was everyone had changed, like I hadn't been home for over 10 years, and my kid's mom and all this kind of stuff. It was just it was real, I don't know, toxic. I guess
it was a real culture shock.
Real culture shock for everyone. So I was like, okay, we haven't seen the country. Let's go move somewhere random. So I ended up getting a job down in Taranaki in Hawera. I just applied for a job on Seek. This guy just opened a cafe. So I just went down there and did that with him. It was kind of a big deal for that little town. They put like a little snippet of me in the newspaper and this kind of stuff. Then again, the world started to get a bit normal, and then I guess it was just again kind of boring down there. Like it was this was kind of cool. It was cool in the beginning, but there was not much to do. I was just constantly looking for jobs, scrolling, and then I found SkyCity had put up an exec chef role. I knew a bloke that worked for SkyCity in Hamilton that I used to work with in Langham years ago. So I asked him, can you put in a good word for me? Blah blah blah. He's like, you don't need it, just apply. You've done all these things. Like be confident in yourself. Blah blah blah. So anyway, applied for this job at SkyCity. And at the time, it was for VIP gaming or VIP areas, and then at opening Food Republic, which is like a food court that we got up in there, and Flair Bar. We flew up from Hawera, New Plymouth, did my job trial, and aced the day. Like just did a really solid job trial. And moved back to Auckland, got the job, moved back to Auckland and started working there. And then slowly along the way, inherited more things, right? So SkyCity used to have a big out catering business. So inherited that side of the business. We launched what's it called? The America's Cup. When the America's Cup was here, we had a little pop-up. 2 pop-up restaurants and bars down there, and then I think after about a year, then I got the signature restaurant portfolio, which is pretty much all of Federal Street, the restaurants in the Tower, which was something I wanted when I started working there, and then I think only in October last year I ended up getting a promotion and taking on the whole precinct.
Because I want to ask you this. Because what's the one thing, Patrick? What's the one thing out of all throughout the journey? Obviously, you had your ups and downs like everyone else. All these convictions that you were saying, and then even in the midst of all those convictions, you're still getting jobs. You're getting jobs left, right, and centre, and great positions and great restaurants. What's one thing that you, in your heart of hearts, what's the greatest learning or learnings you have garnered from all of that thus far in your career?
Like in the career itself?
Yeah, in the career. So obviously it's still going, but what's one thing you kind of grasp?
The learnings and stuff, I've never really... my character has always kind of been the same, and who I am. I've never really tried to change that. When you start climbing the ladder, right, and you get into these big corporate companies, there's a lot of, I guess, politics, right, and that kind of thing. So I've never really played into that. I've always kind of stayed true to who I was, and that person who I am is, you know, evolves over time. You're not the same person you were last year, and if you are, it's kind of
sad.
for you, right? But you know, over the years, I've gotten older, I've gotten wiser, I've realized things, and I think my character has just changed naturally. So I think the biggest learnings for me was to just stay true to yourself. You know, stay true to what you believe in, and you know, if you're there for the right reason, if you're doing the things or whatever it is you're chasing, it will come. You know, it will come.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. 'Cause you're right, because you're in a position where you, like executive chef, and if you might think, oh man, I'm the only Pasifika here, man. I'm the man now, and and some people tend to change. They tend to change because they're in the whatever position or money, whatever it is, and then they kind of change their persona, like we talked about earlier on. Eh?
But I think like as well, it's how can you say, like, you don't get to wherever you're going by yourself, right? Like there's always someone who's helped you out somewhere,
cool.
And I think you don't like. It's kind of weird, not weird, but it's just a bit naive, I guess, for anyone to think like I did this by myself. You know, no one did, right? Like no one's done that. Everyone's helped them along the way somewhere, whether they did it intentionally or not. You've taken something from somewhere, or you've copied something from somewhere to get you to wherever you're going.
That's true, man. That's true. Yeah, and to think that you did it on your own merit, like, man. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I totally agree. To get to a specific dream or goal or achieve a goal, you need people around you. You need people that can help you, support you. And it's cool that you talked about your mom and your sister, obviously your wife and your kids, your support systems. They were there. And you're right. And look at what you're doing now. And that's to me, when you said, oh, bro, when obviously you're good mates with Henry and Wallace and Michael, and they all say good things about you, man. Hey, man, especially Henry's like, man, this guy, you need to have this guy, man. This guy's the man. And just sitting in, he did.
There's been a few questionable things that have happened, but
yeah, and he vouched for you. He said, man, you gotta have the brother on, man. Just get him on and just listen to your story, because I don't want to say anything at all. I just want to just listen to your story and ask very few questions.
Sorry, I don't know, I rambled on about a few things, but there's like another part that I missed out, which is another big thing that I guess that's what was the life-changing, moment. I think I was 20 at the time, right? And doing all that dumb shit. I had gotten into an argument with someone. You're drunk on the road, on the street, whatever. I got into an argument with someone, and we got into a tussle fight kind of thing. He had punched. He went to throw a punch, and I punched back. Yeah. Then the guy, he fell back and hit his head, and he died. Almost died. So I had run off, and the police were calling me. You need to come in. This is what's happening. Da, da, da. I was pretty scared at the time. I went and I think I went back to my primary school, to St. Joseph's. I went and said a prayer. I went to another church and said another prayer. I went back to my girlfriend's house, went back to sleep, woke up in the morning, let's go to the police station. I need to go sort this shit out. And then got there. The detective, he was trying to, I don't know, not trying to, I guess he was telling the truth, that you got into a fight with this guy, you punched him, he's hit his head, and he's on life support, he's about to die. So that was after the jail stuff and all that kind of thing. That was when my life was kind of going on track, type of thing, And then I got arrested for that. I got bail because my life was going in the right direction, kind of thing. But the police were trying to make a deal on what the sentence should be. And at that time, he was still on life support, and I was pretty scared. Because they're saying, if he dies, you're looking at a manslaughter charge, and then I ended up on the front page of the Sunday News, the next day, and they wrote this, column, like, read the story about me. I had name suppression. They couldn't, no one could say who it was. Took my Facebook photo and just blurred it. But I guess if you knew me, you could see who there was. But it was like the title was "Ticking Time Bomb." That was the title of the story, And I guess as I look back on it now, it was like, I guess I was, like it was a matter of time before something this serious was going to happen. So yeah, and then, but I knew that I didn't throw the first punch. Like, I'm not saying I should have never been in that situation 100%. I should have never been there. But I guess that was my defense, was that I never threw the first punch, and there was multiple witnesses that had seen that. So I ended up changing the lawyer I had to someone else, because this guy was just wanting me to make a deal with the police to do, I think it was 8 to 10 was the deal if I took it right then, right. But if it ends up being a manslaughter charge, you're looking at 10 plus. You do a deal on 8 to 10, you'll be out in 5, kind of thing, and that's the moment it was like flashing. What the fuck do I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then changed my lawyer, and then all the charges got dropped because there was just so many witnesses, and the guy was I think he was an off-duty police officer, which made it worse as well. But that's what I'm saying. There's so many little snippets in this story of little things that had gone on.
Did he survive? Did he survive?
He survived, yeah. Like, thank God. But I don't, I don't even know if I should be talking about it. But like, it's like, there was another follow-up article that came out after the charges got dropped. And then my name suppression had gone. They put my face all over the newspaper of me like holidaying in Niue, and it was like, oh shit, it wasn't good. And then they did another follow-up story when I was in Dubai.
It's a good thing you were holding the flag.
It was bad, man. Like, my family was so like, there's so many people talking about it. Family was so embarrassing, like. But yeah, he survived. And I don't know if it's appropriate for me to like reach out to them or anything. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't one of those things I went out and was seeking to do. It was, I guess, in that period of my life where I was just not a nice person. But yeah.
Nice. Man, what an interesting story, bro. And all these things you can pick out on. And I remember you telling me that earlier on. Well, it was last year. We kind of over Zoom. I was waiting for this. Oh, did Patrick miss out something? Did he miss out that story?
Yeah, because you start rambling. You start talking about the good things. You forget about the bad. I don't want this to be one of those podcasts where you come on and you start rambling about dumb, like bad things you do. It sounds like you're glorifying it, you know what I mean? It's definitely not one of those moments. It's I guess my story, there's millions of people's stories are way off worse, and there's millions of people who probably have the same story as I do, or, it's more of wanting to I guess inspire, you know what I mean? Cool. Inspire someone out there that there is a different way to get out of this stuff.
I can guarantee, Patrick, you get some young men who are listening, and they're probably going down their path like, I'm just continuously doing stupid things, doing some dumb things. I don't know why I'm doing this. And it could be, I don't know, trauma, whatever it is that they may be going through. But I really believe that your story, and some of these, and you and I know this, and Danton, there's a lot of talent, a lot of young people, our people, Pasifika or Māori, very talented, and just not being given the opportunities. And it sounds like even in your journey that opportunities were there, and you took them, even in the midst of those negative parts. But the successes and the positive parts outweigh the negative. And so someone may be listening, and some young man was like, "Man, I'm just doing this up. Maybe I relate to what Patrick's saying, and maybe I need to just carry on with the goal and the dream." The cool thing about you, Patrick, is that you didn't take your eyes off your destiny and your goal. Because some people are like, oh, no, stuff this, just do something else.
It's like a lot of Polynesian people, Pacific people in general, we're shy,
Yeah.
The opportunities might be there, but you're too shy to take it.
Yeah, to take it, yeah.
Or too, it's...
Too whakamātua.
Yeah, it's just like, it's sad, you know what I mean? Because it just goes back to the same thing, you don't get anywhere without people or things that are offered to you, So, my grandma always told me if someone offers you something, you always take it. It's impolite. It's impolite if you don't.
That's your grandma's wise. Your grandma's wise. So what do you say to our people? What do you say to our young men? Even some of these older guys, they might be having the same issue. I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to ask. The opportunities there, but I won't ask. I won't grab it with both hands. What do you say to those men or people in general? Our people.
It's hard because every circumstance is going to be different. Everything is. There's always, everyone's got their own circumstances, right? But I guess it would be don't be scared. There's no a lot of. You can be the man amongst your friends or amongst your cousins or whatever it might be. But then when it goes out into the real world, you see it a lot. They just shy away. People, Pacifica people, I know a chef that I work with. His name's T. He's probably gonna get pissed off when we calling him out. But he's a great chef. Amazing guy, really good person, and he's a really good friend of mine now. But when I first met him, he was so shy. He was so shy, and I brought him into SkyCity. Because he was he's just a talented chef, you know what I mean? And I want that around me, you know what I mean? I want talented people around me. I want people I can learn from as well. So, he's gone on now to he's like a corporate exec chef for Ovation Hospitality. He works all across the country, you know what I mean? I think working with him, and seeing how shy he was, and then watching him now grow over the years, he's just excelling. It's just another example of not being scared. It just goes and does it now.
It's good. You're right. I think a lot of our people, because you're right, our people are kind of usually that level of respect. They Patrick, be respectful, won't say anything, just. Whatever I said or whatever I'm told to do, I'll just do it. But I think it's it's a shifting, and I think a lot of our people are now like, "Come on, just do it." And you're in a space where it's rarely that executive chefs there are Pasifika or Māori, and so you're in a space where you are in charge, and you're in charge of over 20 plus restaurants. So how do you do that? How do you balance all of that with your family? Your wife and kids, and obviously...
Oh, the wife is no longer a wife.
Oh. Is that another story?
That's another story.
Oh, no, man. I just sort of hit them.
But that marriage broke down again, not long after, actually. No, maybe about a year or two after going back to New Zealand. I think that's another chef trait, right? Really hard to hold down a relationship.
What's up with these chefs?
Ask Michael. Nah, just playing. But it's, I don't know, a lot of it was, you chase your career so hard. You want to succeed. And it's like a drug, you just, you feed off this adrenaline and off all that kind of thing that happens within kitchens, and I don't know, a lot of my younger career was like that, and I guess even when I was at SkyCity, when I first got there, it was, I had that dream of being this executive chef of a major 5-star hotel brand when I was 30, and I was 31 at the time, so I wanted it so bad that I needed to I needed to get this before I'm too old, but I'm considered to be quite young for the job that I have, so it was, I chased that a lot, and relationships break up for all sorts of reasons, you know what I mean, but what was the question?
Oh no, I'm just saying. Yeah,
How do you juggle it?
How do you juggle all of that? Because I can imagine it's very busy, very.
It's the
in
same,
terms of
man.
the level.
Just be yourself, eh? Like, I wouldn't say that I'm this, superhero person or whatever it might be, but it's like, I guess something I could be proud of is that all the restaurants that I do oversee, they all have amazing, talented chefs in them, that run these on a day to day. I'm not going to take any clout for any of the stuff that they do. You know what I mean? These people are in there day in, day out, serving the guests and doing that kind of thing. I'm just there as I guess as their mentor or someone to lean on or someone to bounce ideas off. I don't come in and see myself as superior, and I don't think I ever will. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're gonna come at me and thinking like there are people that are like that. There are people within the business or within the industry, that come in with this ego and this type of thing. But there's no room for that. I'm there to make money. I'm there to make sure that we make money efficiently, and that's what it's about. But yeah, it's I guess it's tailoring my personality in somewhat way and going into different places. I know that if I go into this restaurant, this chef, he likes to be directed, swiftly and straight to the point, direct. I know if I go over here, this chef likes to have a coffee first. He wants to talk about the weekend. He wants to, talk about the kids and da-da-da-da-da. And it's these kind of, I don't know, I guess understanding your people and not leading with, the blueprint of this is how it should be. It's you got to tailor your approach to different individuals, I guess.
Yeah, awesome, bro. And that's probably why you're well renowned for your leadership in Pacific cuisine. As I was saying, they say that you were one of the pioneers or leaderships in terms of this in this space. And so because you're looking after, you oversee 20 plus restaurants, and then you're Pacific Islander. How much of your Pacificaness, or if I can say that, but more so your Niuean roots, do you implement in some of these situations or restaurants? Because I know not all of them are Pacifica restaurants, but how much of your roots do you kind of like, I'll just add a bit of flavour here and there?
I think there's a lot of the places, I run by, well-established and big names. You got Al Brown, who runs Depot, and Fed Deli, who, the two chefs that run those outlets, a guy named Jack and a chef named Megan, they have those places on lock. They do their food, and Al is their mentor, so I kind of come in as just the bridge between the business and the restaurant. And then you have we've got three celebrity chefs. You've got Michael Meredith in Matita, and then you have Sid Sarawat, who runs Cassia, and then you've got Nick Watt, who does Masu. So those kind of places, they all run themselves. And Michael T and myself, we did a pop-up a couple of years ago for Matariki. We put some Niuean flavors in there, and then we do some we touch the menu up at Orbit. Some of the SkyCity run businesses I have more I guess culinary touch on within those places, but it's not that I don't want to do it, but it's more like I want these people to grow, and I want them to show who they are. So a lot of my leadership in the way that I run these things is I want to see you. I want to know who you are. So when you win, it's not a matter of if we win an award. It's when we win that award. I want you to be able to put your head up high and say, "This is your award." You know what I mean? You're running this on a day-to-day business. It's not me. You know what I mean?
Cool. Man.
So yeah.
Bro, you're a humble dude, bro. You're a humble dude, man. It's especially in these kind of spaces. Yeah, because often you look at those TVs, like you go Gordon Ramsay, and they quite boisterous. You better F does, you do this and that.
Oh, I definitely was like that. I was like that at one point in my life, right? Like, I think it was common. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying I'm proud of all these things, but that was the environment I was raised, you know, in those kitchens where that was happening all the time to me. And then I thought that was the normal way to act. And yeah, you know, it's not like I never had that phase, and I still have those little moments, you know, that you kind of lose control. Not really lose control, you lose your temper, you know.
Because they're not doing the work this way. They're not doing it properly. It's like you, man. It's like you, man.
Yeah, it's, you know, it could be just calling up and
Call them out.
Talking some story that's, but everything's so PC right now. Like it's a big corporate business. We have to do things a certain way. There's no way you could run these businesses the way that they used to be run, you know. But yeah.
Bro, man. And so I don't know, because I know you said you've shared a lot of southern stories. What are some of the good feel stories in terms of being in the midst of your colleagues and your other employees, and just realizing, man, this restaurant is going to go off? What are some of those restaurants that you be like, man, this is, or are they all like, man, these are all gonna?
I think like we all kind of successful in our own right in each of the places that I manage. Some feel good stories was, you know, we do a lot of charity work. We did a fundraiser when the war in Ukraine, because my kids' mum is from Ukraine, so I had did a big fundraiser with World Vision. Oh no, sorry, UNICEF. I think we raised about 70 grand for that. And then I teamed up with another Polynesian chef, Ana Savio, who has Gia's Grab and Go. We did some fundraising for the Tongan tsunami relief fund. Did a few, raised a bit of money there for that. Sent shitloads of fresh water over and food and things like this. But yeah, I think with the feel good stories with the restaurants, you know, they're all really solid places, and they're all you know been awarded so many different accolades. But I think it's the next tier down. So I'm like, you know, I'm developing, or working with the head chefs. They move on. I haven't really. Well, I'm lucky because a lot of my head chefs have all stayed with me, or stayed with the business, which is making my job a lot easier. It's when you got to bring in a new head chef to run something. It's always different. You know, it's always difficult. You got systems in place and ways that these restaurants don't run like they run on the outside. You know, you can't just tell someone don't come back tomorrow. You know, like it's just you're not allowed to do that. So yeah, I think it's watching this next tier, which is the sous chef, going into that head chef role and watching them grow and become leaders and stuff like that. So that's always makes me feel good when you can see them, you know, see them growing in their leadership, and you watch them over the years, getting better and better and more mature and more, you know, just thriving. You know what I mean? It gives me my little. This is why I wake up in the bed and come to work in the morning, kind of sometimes, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of little snippets of my day that are just, you know, nothing's ever the same. I think that's what I enjoy about my job. It's just every day is different.
So cool, man. Yeah. What's one of the, because you've done so much, you've and there's so much. So I can imagine so many awards you've garnered throughout your years. In the space, what's the number one thing on the top of your head? Like, man, this has given me so much joy, but more so, this is my proudest moment in my illustrious career thus far.
It's difficult, eh? It's difficult. I guess where I'm at now is in my chefing career is one of those moments where I'm like, there's nowhere really bigger in the country you can go. You know what I mean? There is no, like, we are a small country, you know what I mean? It's what is the next role within the chefing realm that I can move to? I can't really move anywhere. This is, I guess I'm at that moment in my life where I'm pretty satisfied with where I've come along the chefing road, and it's kind of where to next? What do you do next? You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be, I don't want to be in my chef whites when I'm 50. You know what I mean? Like it's not, there's nothing wrong with it to those guys out there that are doing that, but it's not like that's not the dream that's not my dream now. And I'm trying to figure out what is my next dream. What is my next goal? What is my next thing? Life is different now. You got your kids to raise, and you've set down roots somewhere in back home, and it's like, can you just pick up your kids and go off to another country? It's not simple anymore. It's a lot more complicated. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I am now. But it's weighing on my mind what is next.
Wow. I don't know, you said so you're not too sure. Is there anything, the inkling in your mind right now, like, maybe this could be the route that I'm going to go?
Well, definitely something within hospitality. I guess I can't spend, what is this, 20-something years doing in this arena and step out. It's going into more corporate now. I guess it's putting on, maybe going and playing that political game. You know what I mean? Like you have to, I guess, when you go into that space. But who knows? Like yes, career wise, that makes the most sense. But you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You never know who what door might open, what things may be presented to you that you either take with both hands and you run with it, or who knows.
Bro, I've been here like something, might be something left field. You can find out, Patrick's joined a band or something.
I always wanted to be a fireman. That was what I wanted to be when I was a kid. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's tricky, like, as you, when you've got like young kids. My boys are 10 and 8. And then, my daughter is 16, who I never really had a relationship with. We kind of see each other like now and again. It's tricky because you want to be a part of your children's lives. My boys, I'm lucky because I have them 50-50 with the mother, and it's good to be there. So I don't think I would go and take on something that I had know nothing about. You know what I mean? It would consume too much of my time. I already missed out so much of their lives in the beginning that I don't really want to go off and pursue something and waste more time. I guess.
Yeah. True, man. And so just one more thing as well, Petra, because you kind of shared from the onset, like as young as you were, you were up to mischief and all that kind of stuff. But you were trying to figure things out as a teen and as a youngster. What's one word of advice you could give to our young men? And it could be someone young as 10, 12, 15. You may be listening or just bypass this and go, oh man, this is a good listen. Or maybe watch it on YouTube and say, what's one word of advice that you would hope that, and also that you think they would add value to some young boy, but even our men in particular?
I think like a lot of younger generation, or even it's different now. Like they've thrown so many things at you that you could do this, and you don't really stay in something long enough to know whether or not you like it or whether or not it's the thing for you, I guess. So for me, it's more like find something you're good at. You might not like it every day. You might not enjoy getting up every day, but you're good at it. And if you're good at something, you're automatically going to like it because you're good at it, right? So I think find something you're good at, definitely, even if you don't like it. If you're good at it over time, you're gonna enjoy it. There were days, there were multiple days throughout my life where I was like, I hate this job. I don't want to get up again and work 12, 13, 14-hour days and do that over and over again. And I cook the same dish and I cut the same vegetables, whatever it might be. But I think that's important for any young person. And then you got to be resilient in what you're doing. You have to stick it out. That's not, you got to keep going even when you don't feel like it's worth it, or you don't see the things. Like my whole career, You know, my first job was $6.50 an hour, and I didn't start making, you know, big bucks until I was in Dubai. You know, like it wasn't, that was, you know, already, you know, 15, 16 years in. So it was, it's not, you know, it's not always about the money. Stop chasing these things. You chase your personal satisfaction, I guess. So it was, yeah, I guess, you know, have the resilience to wake up every day and just keep going. And yeah, eventually you're gonna realize that little things are gonna pop up along the way, which gratify what you're doing, I guess, you know.
Yeah, man, good words of advice. Also appreciate your time, and also just appreciate your resilience. That's what I kind of gauge from tonight. Just your absolute resilience, even in the midst of adversity, that you keep pushing through. And look, and you make us real proud, man. You carry the Pasifika flag, and obviously Niue, you know. And so, mad love to you and the family. So, are you remarried again, or just?
Nah, I've got a partner. Yeah, we're like, I guess what, almost 2 years in, I guess. But yeah, that's the next chapter of you know, my relationships, I guess. You know, hopefully it's the last. But yeah, things, you know, again, like nothing is easy, right? Like, especially when you, could be talking about dating now, right? It's harder, right? When you're old, right? Like I consider myself, I'm 37, 38 now, like, I'm 37. I'm 37. So, you know, meeting people at this age is different. That's a like different story, you know, like, because you've already, you know, your personality is already established. Yeah. This is you. You had your life, and you're bringing those two things together. You know, it's not easy. You know, honeymoon phases and all those things kind of fade away. So, I'm definitely, I think, you know, learning a lot. And being a lot more open-minded and being a lot more, I guess, wiser in the decisions I'm making. You know, now that I'm getting older, and you know, my partner is, you know, supporting me in those things, and it's not, it's definitely a partnership now when you're in this stage of your life, you know.
That's cool, man. Like you were saying, you get a bit wiser when you get a bit older. What is she? Is she Russian?
No. It's one of these of European woman. So I don't think it was, you know, nationalities anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was just, yeah. It's just like life, right? It's definitely culture shocks, definitely all those types of things. But then, you know, you go around, you see the world, you do things, you know.
Yeah.
Live your life.
That's for part two. That's for part two.
That's for part two.
Recap.
It's just not a dating show, you know. So, relationship
the dating
advice.
Oh man, Patrick. Also, it's been an absolute pleasure. Obviously, dancing as of New Wayne roots as well. And so I don't know. I said this year, man, is the year of the New Waynes, man. There's just something happening here at Denton. And so, you know, mad love to you, bro. To you and to your family and to your boys, and wow, go well with your journey, continuous journey, illustrious career, and brother, keep us posted with anything new. But otherwise, part two, I'd love to have part two and recap of
maybe in 10 years, let's see where we are. Right?
part two in Dubai. By the way, Patrick, mad love, and thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Once again, the man himself, Patrick Ikinofo. Band-Aid.